Thank you very much. Thank you. So, good afternoon, ladies. It's so brilliant having an audience which is predominantly ladies. So, the guys asked me to talk about the state of our nation in terms of our operating landscape for the industry. And I think last time round you had my former boss, Martin Sorrell, do this. And he talked a lot about activist investors and macro economies. I am going to talk about the thing that our industry is absolutely fundamental and based on, which is people. And how, in terms of our landscape and what we're doing, people are what are important and people are what will change what we do. So, I'm going to really cage this, if I can sort out where I'm going to put my notes, there we go. I'm going to frame this in three areas. What do clients really want? Because they're people too. So what do clients really want? What are the challenges facing our industry in terms of consumer changes which influence what we need to do in all departments in any operating company within the industry? And then finally, what should we be doing to respond to this? So, the first thing is a term which some of you may be familiar with, which is VUCA. And it's a term which came from the US military, and it's a term which I think very aptly describes where we are today, not just in our industry, but in society. And VUCA essentially stands for volatility, because our industry, and it is quite volatile at the moment in terms of the world that we are living in, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And nobody can really agree what the differences are between uncertainty and ambiguity, which is quite interesting. So I like to think that uncertainty is the known unknowns, and ambiguity is the unknown unknowns. And the thing about the complexity is we know, but there's just so much happening that it's difficult to get our head around it and to get our arms around it as well. And this is something which is fundamentally affecting how our clients think and operate, and also how we as an industry are operating currently. So if we look at what clients really want, first of all, operating in this VUCA world, I recently did a survey amongst clients to find out what it is that's keeping them awake at night. And I also worked with LinkedIn to look at some of the articles which our clients were downloading. And it sort of took a snapshot of the last 3 months and the highest number of articles which our clients were downloading, because this is a bit of an indication about what's keeping them awake at night, where they need extra information. And these are, and this was Jan to March, so it was these 3 months that we ran this activity. And these essentially show what it was that our clients were looking at. So these are the areas that they needed more information from. I'm just going to see if this mic works. So I should actually have a mic which should work. I'm getting a, there we go, I don't need that. There we go. So these are the areas that our clients are downloading and trending on LinkedIn. And this may change, but these were the 3 months from Jan to March. And it could be that the gender pay gap report was coming out in April in terms of the deadline, that we've seen gender pay gap as one of the areas. It could be because GDPR kicks in on the 25th of this month that we're seeing that, because it's everything short-term and front of mind. But these are the areas that our clients need help on. But also, what do our clients think about what we do and our industry? And these are some of the verbatims from talking to intermediaries that work with all of our clients. And this is what they have been saying. And I will click through because there's sort of 2 slides on this, but essentially there are 2 key areas. Us being old-fashioned in terms of how we are deploying advertising and starting with TV first and things coming off the back of TV. So it starts with a TV idea as the solution or the answer. And secondly, about our understanding of a client's business. Our understanding of a client's business. So the fact that we come up with fantastic ideas and creative ideas, but actually, do we really understand that a client's business actually is quite siloed itself? And sometimes some of the ideas that we're coming up with may actually be quite hard to implement because of how a client isn't joined up. let alone our industry and ourselves. So if we think about that on the backdrop of the other challenges that we're facing in an industry, and I like to put them into 3 buckets. The first bucket I'll talk about will be digital. The next bucket I'll talk about will be tech, and the next bucket, data. But if we think about our industry overall and how we're doing, this is the 9th consecutive year that we are predicting growth in the advertising industry. So the 9th consecutive year. And we are seeing or predicting growth of just under 5%, about 4.8% in the advertising industry, which, given the backdrop of uncertainty and VUCA, is good. It's strong. But there are challenges happening within our industry and challenges happening within some of our client industry sectors. So consumer packaged goods, who used to see a year-on-year growth of about 4% every year, will be struggling to remain flat year-on-year. Other areas where we used to see significant spend when it came to TV being challenged more and more, and we're seeing a huge increase in digital spend. And the prediction that digital spend and advertising spend will be about 60% for this year in terms of its share. And if we think about in 2008, the digital pure play spend in terms of advertising spend was around about the same as TV, about 24% share. So we're seeing a massive rise in digital advertising spend. And that brings some complexities for us and also for clients. So the 3 topics sort of shaping our future and determining what we're really going to do going forward are these. So it's digital, tech, and data. And all of this is about people and how people are interacting with digital, tech, and data, whether those are clients or whether those are consumers. So if I talk about digital first of all, and some hypotheses on the right-hand side for digital and what is happening. The first thing is about the brands that have grown and the brands that have demonstrated growth. So if we look at Brand Z and the top 100 global brands, the ones which have grown the most, the ones which top that league table, tend to have digital and social in common and have taken and embraced digital and social. So whether that's brands like JD.com, who did a strategic partnership with Tencent to make sure that they had a very frictionless experience for consumers, where you could literally, because of their WeChat function, text, look at e-commerce to buy and transact without changing platforms. So those brands which have performed incredibly well have embraced digital and social. And the brands that haven't are getting left behind. And this is something which is really important that we need to think about, because that reflects a consumer trend. Consumers want things to be easy. We know that. So we have to think about that in our industry in terms of what we do. Making things easy for our clients, but also reflecting how consumers are responding and making things easy for consumers. The other area is voice, the voice economy. We need to start thinking about what our brands sound like. And if you think about voice search, 20% of all Google searches now are voice, and there's a prediction by Comscore that that will increase to 50% by 2020. And the thing about voice search is that it can be quite generic. Buy me some batteries is what you say to whatever the operating thing is that you have in your room, whether it's Amazon or a Google Home. Buy me some batteries, not buy me Duracell batteries. So it's making our job harder to make sure that brand is thought about. So the things that are making things easier for consumers can actually make our job even harder, because we've got to think about brand and the importance of brand. And of course, with all this rise in digital, there is the scrutiny that has happened, which is our clients are concerned. It's fantastic that we've got digital, but actually, what about ad fraud? And, you know, the estimate that ad fraud last year cost the industry $12.5 billion. What about brand safety? Clients concerned about the context in which their brand is seen in. And also, let's think about viewability, because at the end of the day, you want your ads to be seen. And that is something that happens on every single client review. We are talking about viewability. So again, these are areas that we have to lean into. So digital, fantastic, we embrace it. It makes things so much smoother and easier for consumers, but it brings challenges for us as an industry. Technology. Any technology that changes consumer behaviour is technology that we have to think about. And we need to keep up with the changes in technology, because technology is brilliant and it should be embraced, and it allows us to personalise things now. It allows us to do more for our clients. And it's something that we should lean into. Whatever department you work in, we need to lean into. And it's a question that I ask everybody that I work with at every single agency within WPP. Who are your tech partners? Do you know your tech partners? I mean, do you really know your tech partners, and do you bring them into your area? Because we need to, because that technology is changing what consumers do as well as clients. So clients, because of the advances in technology, they can actually do it themselves. We have developed technology which allows them to self-serve, allows them to bring content and advertising buying in-house, which could make us in the room redundant, because we've been so great at creating technology which allows them to self-serve. So it's how do we make sure that we have a point of difference? How do we make sure that we work with our tech partners? And how do we make sure that we advise our clients that bringing things in-house which clients may want to have more control and to make sure that they are in charge of what happens to their brand and their advertising, to make sure that we are with them on that journey and that we have a role. So every single part of an agency or every single part of a department needs to speak to each other. It has to be seamless. And technology allows us to do that, but it also can be a threat. And thirdly, that brings me on to data, because data is a friend which absolutely should be a catalyst for what we do in terms of creativity. It really should, because the data that is now available allows us to accelerate what we can do creatively in real time. However, if we go back to that first slide about some of the things that clients think about our industry, we have to remember that a number of our clients, and for Group M, less than 10% of the clients at Group M actually have a single view of a customer. So pockets of data exist in different areas of a client's business. So whether that's about footfall in store, whether that's about digital analytics, whether that's about social media, what the response has been, it can exist in silos within our client's business, and it is difficult for them to join up. But if we're able to harness that data, that is light catnip in terms of the creativity that we can come up with, because we then can be personal. We can absolutely make sure that we have personal communications, because we know what our consumers and what our clients' customers are interested in. But integrating that data is really hard. But GDPR was one of the things that you saw on the slide, on the very first slide, in terms of all the things that were being downloaded by clients. And so we have to be respectful of data. We absolutely have to be respectful. So it's fine for a consumer to be served an ad when they buy shoes and they see an ad every couple of months. But then when we start following them around the internet with us and serving them a shoe ad every 5 minutes, it becomes slightly annoying. So we have to be really respectful of data. And I do not even have to mention Cambridge Analytica to show how it could go wrong if we are not respectful of people's data and people's privacy. So, what can we do? To talk about the industry and not talk about Brexit would be a mismatch. So, Brexit is something which has been debated on and on and on in our industry, and it is something which is happening. Whatever way you voted, whether we like it or not, it is happening. And it has affected us because it affects consumer confidence. And consumer confidence means that it becomes harder for us to sell things. And we have seen that in the UK, consumer confidence dropped 2 points to -9 in April, and that makes the 28 consecutive months without a positive overall score for consumer confidence, so since the vote to leave. Which means that consumers, they no longer have a consideration list. It's all about getting onto the prioritisation list, because it's about prioritising now, because consumer confidence is at a low. And as an industry as well, Brexit has an effect on our talent and our creative talent. And if we think about where our creative talent comes from, 15% of our creative talent in the creative industry sector is from EU markets. And again, creative talent which we rely on, we want them to feel like they belong and feel like that we want that creative talent here. And we have 2/3 of people working in the creative industry sector who are from the EU saying that they no longer feel like they are welcome in our country and in our industry. That has a potential effect on our future creativity, which is something that we need to think about. But I want to see things, I'm a glass half full sort of person rather than a glass half empty, and so I want to see Brexit as an opportunity for us still to engage with government and to make sure that we get what we need, an opportunity as well for us with the content that we create to make people feel like they belong, because we have that ability. Whatever way we voted as a country, brand Britain needs to remain open. So, what can we do? This is very simple, and it applies to consumers and it applies to clients. Trust. This is the trust equation, which has come from a very brilliant book called The Trusted Advisor. And trust equals credibility plus reliability plus empathy divided by self-orientation. Since the financial crisis, the thing which consumers want more, and there's been a 400% increase, is kindness and empathy. That is what consumers are looking for. But consumers trust only 25% of brands. And if you think about the role that we have in terms of connecting clients' brands to their consumers, we have to build trust. So credibility and reliability comes from the product or the service itself. So the quality of the service, how you tend to treat the customers, it can be the price. That's the credibility and reliability. The bit that we can affect as a communications industry is empathy and self-orientation. Empathy is absolutely where data is really important. Understanding what our consumers and our clients' consumers are interested in, empathy, that's where it absolutely ekes out. Because we get the data to know what consumers are interested in. And it's all about reflecting their story in a brand story rather than just us talking about a brand. So we have to build that empathy. And then self-orientation, that's about reflecting them as well. Less about the brand, more about them. So again, self-orientation becomes much easier when we understand modern Britain. And modern Britain is a beautiful fruit salad of people. And I actually see a beautiful fruit salad of people here. And that's what we need to make sure we bring into our own agencies and our own companies, that fruit salad. The more that we have that within our own organisations, the easier it becomes to build empathy, harness data to do it, and the easier it becomes to actually reflect our audience. And it's all about trust. Trust with consumers, trust with our clients. Thank you very much.